Hey everyone, today is April 2020. 4-4, right? So in Chinese, 4 is an unlucky number because it sounds like death. So hopefully the unluckiness of the situation has hit a peak today and we're kind of I hope we're on the downhill slope of it. But one thing I don't miss having to deal with is to debate, because right now all the restaurants in the area are closed, is to have to debate with people whether or not it is ever acceptable to not tip when you get bad service at a restaurant. Many years ago, I had gone to a restaurant this was in Manhattan, New York, and I made the mistake of asking the waiter about various ingredients in a dish that I wanted to try, and I made the mistake of telling him that about my personal situation and sensitivity to the ingredient. I actually told him a little bit more detail than I needed to. And this is a Japanese restaurant. And the waiter, he's a native Japanese, but he spoke very good English. But as soon as he heard about my allergy condition, he he lost his English. He started to speak with a very heavy Japanese accent, almost like he couldn't understand me. But that's all right. I knew there was another dish in there that was safe, and so I ended up having to try something else. And so I didn't want to tip him. And when I got the check, I wrote like a 5 cent tip. I was using a credit card, and I put like 5 cents for the tip. And he comes running out the door, chasing me with an even more exaggerated Japanese accent, going, excuse me," and that was that. A couple weeks later, I made sure to sit in a different section of the restaurant to get another waiter, and I happened to see the waiter who had chased me, and he was talking to another table. He was speaking perfect English. I said, "Oh, where'd you learn your English? That was quick. In 3 weeks, you picked up that much English." And he just ran. He didn't even want to explain to me. I made the mistake of saying that I have an allergy. I've since learned it's better to tell the restaurant staff that you have a religious preference. The reason being that people are worried about liability issues. If they mess up or they misinform you and you get sick, at the very least, it's very bad publicity, right, to have somebody get sick in the middle of the restaurant. If you just have a religious preference, yeah, you might be upset, but you're probably not going to make a scene out of it, right? That's what my friend who owns a restaurant explained to me. Next time, just tell them you have a religious preference. Although I hate doing that because, first of all, I like to be honest, because you never know if the person that's serving you at the restaurant might be your future business partner or something. I just prefer to be honest. I have autoimmune problems. I've had autism, and I deal with it with my diet. I would prefer to do that. Unfortunately, the society doesn't allow me to do that. But that's all right. But it just makes me wonder, is it ever okay to not tip? I mean, so many people just treat the tip as almost like a fixed charge. Like they just tip 15% or 20%. I don't see it that way. When people go out of their way, I had another experience where that time I actually did say I had allergies as opposed to the religious preference. I didn't go into the detail of my condition, but this time the waiter, he went behind he went to the kitchen to actually take pictures of the labels involved, and I gave him a pretty good tip. I think 30-40% that time. So I'm not shy about tipping when people go above and beyond. I actually see the tip system as a way to incentivize stuff like that. And you know what? I was talking to a friend about this, and he says, "Well, you're one of the millions of people who are so picky about ingredients." I'm probably not one of millions, but you know what? If I am really one out of millions, that waiter really shouldn't be missing that one tip, right? He's satisfying the other 999,000 people who would never think about that, right? And he shouldn't be worried about that. If he's so worried about me getting sick in the restaurant, right? Maybe he can afford to lose that one tip, right? Especially if he's pleasing so many other people and getting an extra few bucks from those people, right? That's the way I like to see it. What I really find annoying is nowadays so many people have their payments on an electronic app, right? And the app automatically asks you how much you want to tip, and they're watching you, right? It's not like at a restaurant where they walk away and you can just fill out whatever you want, right? And some of these things you traditionally never tipped, right? What did I do recently that involved an electronic payment? I'm trying to remember. Sometimes even when you're dealing with somebody on Craigslist, right? You buy something from them, you go to their house, and they have you pay on their iPhone, and you're buying, let's say it's a used computer or something like that, and they even ask you for a tip. They're watching you as you put it in, and usually I usually end up choosing the lowest amount that's like default at like 10%, but I still feel extorted for the 10%, right? That's really clever. You have to wonder if Apple was taking a cut out of that tip, and that's really clever for somebody who's trying to sell on Craigslist as well, right? They know that they can agree on a price and still more than likely get an extra 10% out of it, right? But I like to see tipping as a sort of incentive device, right? Where else have I done this? One of the big challenges every Valentine's Day is that I sometimes like to go out alone on Valentine's Day. I don't like to let not having a partner to go out to stop me. And sometimes people make fun of me, or they just give me the worst service in the whole dining area because they feel like I'm not going to tip very well, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They feel like I'm not going to tip very well, they're not going to serve me well, so then I don't tip, right? But one time I got really good service because the waiter, I guess he must have fell into the same boat as I do. And so I gave him a big tip as well. I'm trying to think where else I've given a very bad tip, because those are always funny stories. I'm not shy about not tipping when the service really warrants it. One time I had an experience where the waiter was just screaming about various things that were going wrong in his life, and I didn't tip him either. I felt he was dramatizing all the stuff because some of the things that people complain about, like for example right now the quarantine and stuff like that, they're missing out on the pluses of it when they just complain and complain and complain. I made the mistake earlier this season of complaining about the quarantine, but now I've realized that there are a lot of benefits to it. I'm finding new perspectives on all the things that I want to do, and discovering things I didn't know about myself. But some people are so busy complaining that they don't realize all the pluses in their life, and sometimes I'll try to talk the waiter out of it and have him think about some pot. He doesn't want to listen to it, so I don't have a problem with not tipping people like that. Have you ever not tipped somebody or given a big tip? Leave a comment.